Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, you never know, it could happen. Anyway, we're getting down to the line here. This is the top 20 through 11. It is getting to be some bangers here if it already hasn't, because it really has, let's be honest. I attempt not to read too many bad things. That's my attempt here. You could see over here, I'm clearing out the shelves for this one. I mean, we've got a lot of favorites here, and it's amazing what makes it to the 20 through 11 here. So what does that mean for the top 10? It's pretty good. So let's jump right into it with the top 20. Number 20. Here we go. We've got the Farseer trilogy. That is going to be Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, and Assassin's Quest, which I had to throw away because it was a book that was in bad shape, really bad shape. I mean, it started out when I purchased it in bad shape, and it only got worse from there. So these are all that lasted, but these are just Rob and Hobb. This will not be the last time that Hobb makes it onto this list. In fact, in this very top 20 here. But she just does such an excellent work with characters. If you are a reader for characters, you're going to get that. If you want, I mean, I'll be honest, the title here is a bit misleading with Assassin's Apprentice. It's a little, I expected a lot more fast-paced, kind of crazy book that this is slower. It's slower. It's more of a character study, and we're getting into the life, but it's so excellently done. Fitz is just an interesting character. Royal Assassin is just an awesome book. It's so good. It's the pinnacle of the trilogy for sure. The last one does get a little long in the tooth here, but it's still great. It's still awesome. And Robin Hobb, again, is just a master at her craft. And again, I'm so glad that I read this, because then I got to another series that is even more of a favorite. All right, next we've got the Rhaenyra Revelations. This is the first run, the self-published run that Michael J. Sullivan first did before Orbit picked up his books and then started doing omnibuses of 2 at a time. I wouldn't know. I have the self-published versions, which are the artworks done by the author himself. I think they're so cool. Anyway, so this is just, it's like classic. Sorry, I get all these. It's like classic fantasy done with like more of a modern kind of sensibility. It's very quick. The characters are great, especially Royce and Hadrian are duo. So if you like a buddy cop kind of dynamic, like a pair of characters that you want to like, that you just really become really good friends with and stick with each other through thick and thin. Not unlike other characters that you're going to see. This is like, it becomes themes by this point, but for me apparently. But you're going to see another a couple of characters here that I'll talk about a little bit later, but same kind of thing. But I just love that, and I love just this kind of, it's the traditional fantasy elements like elves and dwarves and all that kind of stuff with magic and a fantastical land, but told where there's really no info dumps. You kind of learn things along the way, you understand things along the way, and nothing kind of bogs down that narrative that is just lightning quick the whole time. And anyway, just an excellent series. Number 18, we've got the Acacia series. This is by David Anthony Durham. I cannot recommend this enough. It's actually a trilogy, and I left the other book at my office, at my other bookshelf. So because I've used it for other TBR videos that you might see here soon. But anyway, having just read the first 2 of the 3, I put the third aside because the author was nice enough to provide here's where we're at so far. And maybe this is exactly why they don't do that very much, because I said at the time, hey, I could take a little break. I already have here's what we know so far, and I do this with my favorite series, and then I keep putting it off because I want that perfect day then that I can just enjoy all the books in the world, and that never has happened, that perfect day. I'm always busy somehow. So anyway, this is just an excellent one. I call this Game of Thrones light. It kind of has that. It's the first book kind of follows some really young characters, so it has that kind of Game of Thrones, like the Starks kind of idea behind it, that you're following the young ones and then as they grow up and stuff like that. So you have that. Then you get the Other Lands, which the Other Lands is literally, it gets to a whole crazy different place that is it's amazing. The imagination behind this is great. The The writing is just impeccable, and it's so underread. It's criminal, I feel like. It's such a good series. Our number 17, we have the Demon Cycle, and if any book series has the award for my collection that's the most motley, the most ridiculous, different kinds, different covers, different everything, it would be this one, because there's only 2 that actually match in my collection, and the rest are all over the place. So anyway, here they are in all their glory. But you have the Warded Man, the Desert Spear, and by that point in my reading career, my blogging career, I was sent an advanced reading copy of the 3rd book, The Daylight War, so I thought that was pretty cool. I haven't actually replaced it. I did actually read this copy of it. I mean, I was trying to beat the deadline, and I actually did at the time. And the 4th book, The Skull Throne, they had a different edition. And then this one is actually a review copy as well. I didn't get an advanced review copy for it, but I did get a review copy, so we have the core. And I think it has just one of the coolest inside covers that you'll ever see, because it's got a demon in there. So I think that's so cool. This series I've been known to call my reading crack. I can't get enough of this series. The Warded Man just blew me away when I first read it. You know, there's differing levels of each book for sure, and I could see where people come from, but for me, I just couldn't get enough. This whole world of where demons, they come out of the earth at night and stalk humans, and unless you have the proper wards surrounding your place, your house, your city, wherever, that they're going to get in and they're going to eat you. So just humanity, kind of almost like a post-apocalyptic thing, but in a fantasy world, fighting the demons, and just, you know, and it's like, so there's these people that will travel around and travel from town to town, the messengers, and they're the hardcore people that have to, you know, get to places quickly, and if they don't, they're going to have some issues, and they have their own warding circles and whatnot. But anyway, it's just such a cool concept. It's a great use of the magic in different ways, in music, and in different kinds of ways. But I just absolutely read my eyes out with this series. All right, number 16, I promised there would be more John Marco on this list, so this is going to be the Tyrants and Kings trilogy. It's just an awesome trilogy. I like John Marco, does a great job. So it's Jackal of Nar, the Grand Design, and then Saints. John Marco does a great job of characters. I feel like they're really realistic in a way that maybe even uncomfortable for some, because of how just human they are. I mean, the Grand Design, the middle book, might be my favorite in the trilogy. It's got one of my favorite just all-time villains, Biagio. That's how I pronounce it. I need a mispronouncing fantasy for that, but absolutely, like, one of my favorite. Just, you know, I've talked about this before, that a villain just can really make a great fantasy series even that much better, and that absolutely does it. But I mean, there's just some shocking moments, just places I didn't think Marco would go. But it's not like grimdark. It's not like that. It's still in more of the traditional fantasy. But I feel like this was one of those like bridge kind of series between that like classic kind of 80s, 90s. We had more traditional kind of like straightforward stories. You've got Magician, and you got, you know, the Belgariad, those kinds of books where it's just more traditional, and just, you know, bad guys, black and white, pretty clear, fight the bad guys. This was really, I think, at the, you know, in that kind of transition period where it was like, let's get gray, let's get like a protagonist that isn't perfect, it's not making great choices every time, but trying his best to do, you know, what choices would you do better in that situation? It'd be very hard. So anyway, I just really I love John Marco for that. I love his writing. It's great. And so anyway, this is just one of my all-time favorites. All right, not quite as motley, but still a little ridiculous. But I've got my number 15 series. You'll see that it's dropped a little bit. Things have changed from when I first did a top 10 list. I've rethought some things. I don't know if the show affected this change here, but maybe it did. I can be honest with myself here. But anyway, it's still top 15 is amazing. These aren't like, they're all almost interchangeable at this point, right? We've got the Wheel of Time. So anyway, Wheel of Time, all 15 books. I did the box sets. So you've got all these box sets of the Wheel of Time. Got so many. So this is all the paperback versions that I have of everything. And then Can you tell where I started the series, maybe? It was definitely before Knife of Dreams came out, started it. Finally finished it, though, years later, because, you know, tragically, Robert Jordan passed away, and then obviously, luckily, Brandon Sanderson took it over. Absolutely, I find Robert Jordan just such a great author. Really, I mean, goes deep into this world, and I mean, it's understandable how some people get pushed away from it because of the fact that it's a lot. I mean, he gets into details, but I really feel like you really just get to know these cultures and these people like so well, and they're just become fleshed out characters that you become friends with. It becomes a band of your friends that you're following throughout this, and you get more and more friends as you go on. There's so many characters, so many to hate, so many to love, so much going on. And that transition from Robert Jordan to Brandon Sanderson is still, to me, to this day, just, it's insane. It's incredible how the story goes on, and the story goes on in a way that you really, it's not too noticeable. You're in with the same characters, and I mean, again, as much as that can possibly be, I do feel like, and this may be heresy to say in the time of Brandon Sanderson, I feel like the juxtaposition of the two authors did kind of show me that Robert Jordan he's the better author by quite a bit as far as this story, right? I don't know. I don't think Robert Jordan could tell Sanderson's stories, right? But definitely with this story, maybe overall the better author, because I just felt really close to the characters. Whereas Sanderson, when he picks it up, he's trying to get to the end, and I think that's fair enough to say. One of the things that makes this series, and I do put a lot of weight in rereadability or rewatchability for my media, but rereadability is a big thing. And can you reread a series? The Slog really makes me take a second gander at that and makes me go, can I take that again? Because I barely made it through the first time. I feel like with some perspective, I'd probably appreciate it more. I remember because I picked this up. So as you may or may not know, there's a good solid 4 approximately 1,000-page books each that are pretty slow moving, and that plot does not advance forward. It's at least at a very snail's pace, and it's rough. I will say, when I picked this series up again, when I'd read the first 5.5 books, and then Robert Jordan passed away, put it to the side to read other things, didn't have had plenty of other things on my plate at the time to focus on, and then I could always go back to this, so I had to do a reread for those first 5 books. And I will say, rereading, for instance, the 3rd book that barely incorporates the main character in it, it was much better that second time, going, 1, knowing that was going to happen, and 2, kind of understanding that this is a story not just about the main guy, right? He's part of it, and he advances that plot, obviously, but he's not it. His story isn't just about him. It's about a lot of different people, and so that at least gave me some perspective. So I do feel like The Slog on a reread might be a lot better, and I maybe one day will give that a try again. Also, what's cool is I got a signed copy of The Gathering Storm, and at the time, somehow, when I was blogging, I got Towers of Midnight as a review copy. No idea how or why, but that was pretty cool for me. And if you didn't know, Sanderson didn't want to sign a book that didn't have Robert Jordan's signature in it, so he had that kind of just, they just published them all with Robert Jordan's signature. All right, number 14, not going to be the last time, and not even the first time that you've heard this author on the list, but this is going to be Janny Wurtz's To Ride Hell's Chasm. Janny Wurtz is just one of my favorite authors, and again, like I said, you're not going to hear the last about her, but To Ride Hell's Chasm is it's incredible. It's a standalone, first of all, so that's kind of nice. And if you want a chance to get to know what her writing's like, and if you're going to mesh with it, which I will be honest, it's not for everyone. It's very dense prose, but it's amazing. It's beautiful. It paints just this emotional, graphic picture in your head. It's amazing. And she's the artist of all of her work, so that's her art on it too. But it's so much in a standalone. I don't know if you've seen the movie Equilibrium, but I kind of compare the main guy in this to the main guy, Mikkel, to I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, to the main character, to Christian Bale's character in Equilibrium, where he has this like fighting style that's like a gun kata in Equilibrium. Again, I'm like referencing an obscure thing with an obscure thing, so I apologize. If you have seen it, this guy is like that. He's just this crazy like, and it gets into this detail of like how he can fight, and just it's nuts. But even more so, I mean, it's not about like this. It's got action. It's got like politics. It's got, it tackles racism. It tackles like, it's so many things. And one of the things again that I love about Wirtz is that she gets down to the horse or the horses in this. You're like feeling for the horses. They're not just, a lot of times horses in a fantasy book are just a faster travel than walking. It's cars for fantasy. You can wear them out, run into the next town or whatever, and in your chase and all that. But like you feel for the horses, and I think that comes through in. Wirtz has done it all. Like she actively works with horses. She actively has honeybees. She plays the bagpipes. Like this is a person who has so many talents. It's like ridiculous, and then can write this way. It is insane. Plus draw this way. Just an artist in every sense, but also just works with the land, with nature, and is one with it. I swear, it's so crazy. So just the more I learn about Janie Wirtz, the more I'm just like, she is my hero. I want to be like her. I will never be like her, though. I have to acknowledge that, but it is amazing. So anyway, standalone, do it. All right, then number 13, I'm going with The Dresden Files. I got a couple. I mostly switched to audiobook for this series. I did read the first 5, though, and I only have 3 of them. And I own some more. I couldn't find them. Anyway, I started slowly picking them up. But anyway, Stormfront I did pick up pretty recently. I found it. Might reread it for the first time. This story is one where it's like, this is popcorn, pretty popcorn. This is book 4. Book 5, you're going, oh, there's a bigger world here. We're starting to put some more things here. We're starting to reference some other things that happened. And from there, this world just like starts opening up. And so by books 9, 10, 8, Polka will never die. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's a long series, right? And there's more planned. But what you can feel safe with is that he had it planned. This isn't when it's just like, hey, I made money off of a couple books, so I'm going to extend this. He had a plan for 20 plus books. So, but those books, these last books have just been so epic. They went from popcorn to epic. And so this is urban fantasy that is as epic as you get, and it just gets, it starts out some fun mysteries, right? And there's still some mystery elements here and there, but it is just mostly, survival for Harry, but this crazy world that is just, it's amazing. It's so, it went from just so much fun, but like, whatever, I can, read it whenever, and I get frustrated with some things here and there. The first, 8 books, he keeps going over and over into how chivalrous he is. It just goes into like almost like we don't know who Harry is 8 books into it, and so it keeps re-explaining his main like features and personality points, and then it finally kind of drops that, and I really appreciate that that many times. But it made it hard for me to just read them back to back at first. But man, now I can, because they don't do that as much. And part of it probably is because Butcher's become a more seasoned author too, and it's so epic. I cannot explain that enough. All right, number 12, I promised there would be more by this author, and that's going to be Robin Hobbs. Live Ship Traders. This I just read, and I think it was last year. Absolutely so, like, I liked Farseer a lot. It was enough to make it into my top list here, but Live Ship Traders even blew that out of the water. It's so good. This is like, I don't even know where to start. Again, her ability with characters is so good. She's so good with characters. You fall in love with all of the characters. You understand the bad guys even. Kenneth is just so terrible, but also you kind of like understand him a little bit. Which I think are your best bad guys. Your ships, you're in love with the ships. You love the ships because they're live. They're actual live ships. I want to get into so many spoilers, but I can't. But it's just this, there's this family drama, politics, super epic magic. I mean, lots of sailing. So, you know, if sailing's not your jam, I can understand that. I love a good sailing book. So, especially an author that can get that right. I think my favorite actually might be the middle book, Mad Ship. One of those, you know, rare, usually middle book is like, get you to the end here. Mad Ship is, I think, my favorite because again, it took some things that I had expectations and it kind of threw them away, and I love that. If it's done well, right? If it's like, well, if it's Star Wars doing it, I don't know, they don't have a great track record with that, but Robin Hobb can do it. All right, and then this is a series that, man, it's hard. I honestly struggled with this because I do feel like it's a top 10 book, but some's got to go at 11, I guess. So I guess it's going to be this one. I've just been reading it recently with Murphy Napier, Overly Average Ben with Grace Dion, and I just read the sequel, Red Seas Under Red Skies. I will be starting Republic of Thieves soon, but Lies of Locke Lamora, number 11. I mean, you want Fantasy World, Ocean's 11, but like way better. Just so much better. I absolutely love it. Scott Lynch's ability with words is so good. He's so clever. This is so quotable in so many ways. And clearly, I think you have to be really smart to be able to write something like this. There's twists, there's turns, there's a huge con. Because, like I said, if it's Ocean's 11, we're talking thieves, con artists. I mean, the series is called The Gentlemen Bastards, and it's true. To have kind of like, I mean, we're talking like plans within plans within plans. We've got, I mean, and just the setup of this, and you learn about Locke as a kid and as he's growing up, and then you see him though, and it's kind of juxtaposed to the present where he's pulling a big huge con, and then also there's other things that, you know, make everything terrible, and you're just, anyway, you're in dire straits, whatever, 1 second, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and it's just so good. It's so epic. Man, I was devastated by this book and loved it and so many things. So absolutely. You know, when I read Republic of Thieves, am I probably going to put this in the top 10? I don't know how I'm going to fit it, but I'm going to probably try. And with that, we have our top 20 through 11. Any disagreements here so far? What do you think? How am I doing? Have you read these ones? I'm assuming more people have read these ones the more we've gone along here. There have been quite a few, so it's been really fun for me to just see a lot of people have picked up kind of just some of the random stuff that nobody's talking about. I just turned a very round number, and so, you know, I've been doing this for some time, and I absolutely love it, and I haven't really taken a huge break. I keep reading, and I keep finding it, and if I I struggle with some reading block, some reading stagnation, some troubles reading the next thing, I'll switch genres. I like a lot of things, and that's the next thing is I gotta start thinking of what's gonna be my top 100 for science fiction. I think I can do it. It's not gonna be able to be by series, I don't think, like in fantasy. I think I'm gonna have to go by individual books, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do with it. But anyway, that's been my list. We're down to the wire here. I think you're gonna see some changes if you've seen any of my, if you've seen my top 10 fantasy or my top 3 short that I did for fantasy, because obviously that's already changed with some of the books in this one all so far. So anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. We'll catch you next time. Bye.